All right, everyone. So, welcome back to Inherent Success podcast, where this is your guide through your self discovery journey and healing journey as well, where we talk about business, success stories, health, wellness, all of the above. And this is more based on transformational stories as well. So, on today's episode, I have a very special guest. So, I would love to introduce Yanni. Oh, Janssen
You
Yanis.
messed up already.
Yeah, guys,
Run it
just so
back, run
you
it
know,
back.
cut. Just so you guys know, I actually had to ask him two times. How do you pronounce his name? So Janssen Yanis.
Yeah, Iason, Ioannis.
Yason Yanis.
There you go.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, I know. I mean, I can kind of relate with the whole name thing because my name is Emma Quero.
Hmm.
So ever since I was little, like everyone pronounced my last name wrong. So every
Hmm.
time they would call my name and I would stand up and I would correct them like it's Quero. They'll be like
Yeah,
Quero or Quiero. And I'm like, no, it's like quiero in Spanish, but instead of the like there's no I, so it's just quiero. Yeah.
yeah.
So I
Did,
can
did you ever have
relate.
like, did you ever have moments where you just tried to give up on it, like tried to give up on correcting people, and then you did that for a while, and you were like, and then you're like, well, you know what? People should pronounce my name right, and then you kind of go back to like correcting them, or
That did happen for a while. I would just like it was just like always repetitive, like correcting and correcting and correcting. And then it
yeah,
got to the point where I was like, okay, I'm not gonna correct anyone anymore. And then I was like,
yeah,
okay, enough is enough.
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
like, this is how you pronounce my last name. Yeah.
yeah, 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 exactly. I know how you feel. Because then after a while, like you can kind of get your ego attached to it. You're like, man, like, you can at least show me the respect of like, pronounce my damn name right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited about this episode and to learn a little bit more about you as well. So as you know, like everyone has a story and I would love to hear your story as so far as like, where are you from? Like how you grew up and what just brought you into what you currently do today. So, I know you're very young, which is amazing. And I've been seeing this rise of like really young entrepreneurs. And,
Mm,
in your generation, like you had an upbringing of, going into the technology world and looking in your background, it just seems like that's what your background is, like the whole digital space. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about yourself. Like where are you from originally? Where you grew up?
hmm. Yeah, yeah. So originally, I'm from Luxembourg. That's where I grew up as well, like until I was 17. Um, my mom's from Belgium. My dad's from Greece as well. And yeah, that's where I'm from.
Awesome. Did you grow up? So you grew up in Luxembourg?
Yeah, Luxembourg. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Nice, nice. And how has it been growing up there? Like how was the experience?
Yeah.
Have you ever been to the States or
No, not yet. I'm gonna go to Orlando in what is it, in November for WebinarCon for the first time ever. So I have no idea what to
wow.
expect, but I'm excited though.
Wow, you're definitely going to feel the American energy for sure.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Especially in Florida and with like the elections and everything. I think it's gonna be pretty crazy. But
Florida is a
yeah,
special
like
place.
yeah, I've heard. Yeah, yeah. There's always like these news articles with like Florida man does this, Florida man does that. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like some really
Yeah.
crazy stories. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so yeah, growing up in Luxembourg, what was it like? Just I don't know. Like there's pros and cons for sure. Biggest pros are definitely it's a great place from to be from in terms of like social security and let's say like I don't know. It's like pretty safe place as well, and like there's a lot of money in Luxembourg. So, like a lot of people, most people never really have like financial issues or whatever in Luxembourg, which is great. And there's great social security as well. Like we have like free public transport. We have great like student subsidies that we don't have to pay back. Um, and things like that. I mean, we have great like health insurance and all that stuff. It's a beautiful place as well. A lot of nature and everything. But the downsides for me are definitely just that it's like very small. It's like a tiny country. It has like 600,000 people in total. And even then, like a lot of it is just a bunch of nothing. Like basically, like there's three main sort of like biomes in Luxembourg. There's either like farmlands, there's either villages or cities, and a lot of it is just farmlands. But yeah, so the fact that it's so quite small as well, like I think you know because it's small, it's also like easy to think small, and
Hmm.
that was something I never really liked about Luxembourg either, because there's not many people who really like think that big. They're very comfortable because obviously, like I said before, there's a lot of security and a lot of like we're very privileged in Luxembourg, and because of that, it's very easy to just be comfortable and like not really want to go go up in life because like you're so comfortable, like what's the point? So that was for me definitely like a downside from it. And but apart from that, I've had some really great memories in Luxembourg though, like growing up and like being a teenager and like being a kid and whatever. Definitely some great memories, but um, yeah, it's just like because it's so small, you always kind of see the same people. It's hard to kind of like get into the habit of meeting new people. Um, I mean, you definitely can, but it's just like it doesn't really lend itself to that too much because it's really easy to just go with the same people, do the same. Can I swear, by the way?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
You got this.
You like you can do the same shit, like you do the same shit every week, um, same shit, different day. But so for me, that was I guess like, I mean, I say it's the downside, but it's also an upside because it's like without that, like if I didn't look at it that way, then I probably wouldn't have had like, like a specific discomfort that would have like pushed me out. Like I was this like uncomfortable with the comfort, let's say, you know. Which I could have easily been comfortable with it. So yeah, it was, I guess, is a good thing in the long term for me. But yeah, that's basically it when it comes to Luxembourg.
100%. Yeah, it's interesting that you say that the part where it's a good thing that you felt that uncomfortable and then you utilize that feeling as like, okay, I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to do the same thing. I don't want to be in the ordinary. I don't want to say rat race because I don't know how exactly how your country is, but just that continuous
Hmm.
cycle that everyone is constantly in. Maybe everyone's idea of success or living a life is just, okay, I'm born into this world. I get to go to school. I have a nice family. I graduate. I get a career, and that's what I'm following this entire time. And then I die. It's like, okay, checking off all the boxes, but you're not really living. So it's very
Yeah.
interesting that you say that. And not a lot of people use that feeling of, some people just like to be comfortable. Most people
Hmm.
just really like that comfortable feeling of like, I like it here. It's
Hmm.
easy, so I'm just going to stay here. So where do
Hmm.
you think where in a moment in your life where you felt like enough is enough, you kind of wanted to get out of that ordinary habits or like ordinary type of routine that you and your family grew up with? Like when was that moment for you where you just wanted to expand and you're like, okay, I don't want to be here anymore. I know that there's more, so let's explore that.
Hmm. Um, I think it was like, um, I don't know. I think there were definitely like a lot of things that led up to it. Because I think like when I was in school, like I was definitely like always kind of the like painfully mediocre guy who like I don't think anyone really thought would do anything with his life. I personally didn't think I would. I don't think even my family thought I would. Um, and I think over because I had like no drive or motivation for anything. Like basically, like I had like no why yet. I was just kind of like going through life or whatever, like struggling. with like school and everything because I really didn't give a shit about school. So like, um, because for a long time I thought I was like, I don't know, like I thought it was because I was like dumb or something or this and that. But now looking back, it's just because I wasn't disciplined for it. Because when I went to university, I actually got some really great grades, and the difficulty level, of course, is like higher in university and high school. But either way, like I always kind of felt this like sort of mediocrity and whatever, and I think that just kind of piled up over the years, and then. I think like when I actually went to university, because I went to go study in the Netherlands, because it's very close. It's like right next to Luxembourg. Um, I went to go study there, and I dropped out of my first two university programs because I just first one like well I just didn't really I don't know I guess like I didn't care about it, but I also was lazy to be fair. I just didn't have like the discipline. So I dropped out of both of them, and then later later I worked for a little bit like during COVID. And then, oh no, actually, right before COVID happened, then I quit that, and then I tried uni again. And I think, um, yeah, and I think because like I went to uni, and like obviously like real adult life was kind of looming because like after uni, you have to like find a job and like actually like, like be an adult and everything. And I think that just like getting closer and closer, along with the fact that like I don't know, like in my whole life, I always felt like I was gonna do great things, and I was like destined for more or whatever. But it never seemed to go that way. Um, yeah. Plus the fact that real life was coming. I think at some point I was just like, yeah, I got to do something. Like I got to do something about it because like I really couldn't see myself like just working like a 9 to 5 or whatever. And honestly, like if anyone loves their like if people there's people out there that love their 9 to 5, and I think that's like awesome, like for them. But for me, it was just never something I wanted. So yeah, then what I think that just all culminated, and I thought like, okay, I need to find something that's gonna make me money, and yeah, because like so in that third university program, I got the chance to go on an exchange program to Japan to Kyoto, and that was like one of the most meaningful times of my life. And when it came to an end, I was like very sad. But at the same time, I had this, it really motivated me to be like, okay, well, shit, now I need to like find something that, that can allow me to like make enough money to like go back to Japan, which now has turned into like traveling other places too. But first started with like wanting to go back to Japan. Um, yeah, and something that I could do like remotely as well, and ideally something that I liked. So then I landed on copywriting.
I think with school, it's not, I mean, this is what I'm also experiencing with my son too. My son's 14, and he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was in kindergarten. And I know he's a smart kid, and he has proven that he's a smart kid. And I don't, not saying that you have ADHD, it's just kind of like the similar experience where his mindset is like, I don't see any reason for school. He's a
Oh
very
yeah,
smart kid. He's like school is for workers, and I'm not a worker mom. And I was like, you're right, but you gotta school has its purposes, as far as like, we all gotta learn how to read. We all have to learn how to write. We all have to learn simple math. So it does have its purpose, whoever can think differently, but it does serve its purposes in different ways and areas of our life. But I don't, from my experience of hearing this conversation, it could have been maybe like, not that you were lazy, but maybe the whole school system and the whole school idea and getting a 9 to 5 and like all of these things, which, universities don't really get you 9 to 5s. I know people in my life where they graduated high school and they graduated college and they're servers at a restaurant. I personally know people like that. So I
yeah, me
don't
too. Yeah,
believe that, yeah, I don't believe that college is like a necessary thing, or school is a necessary thing, unless of course if you're becoming a doctor, like all these, like an engineer, like that's crucial and that's important. But as far as school being a way to, and that's the norm, that's what we're taught here, especially in America. That's like the cycle. Like you go to school, you get a job, and all these things. So it, most times, and even for me, and not talking about school, most times we get stuck into something that is just a cycle because we have to do it. But then we
Yeah.
realize, I don't like this, and we're constantly doing that. And when you think, okay, I don't like this, there's something wrong, it's because that specific thing is not in alignment with what you're really meant to do and your purpose.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. No,
Yeah.
I think so too. Because yeah, it is a difficult one, like you said, because it's like, most countries, like by law, like, yeah, you have to go to school, and it's not always, and obviously there's like different types of schools. There's also like these sort of alternative education schools now where they like take a completely different approach, where it's like more hands-on or more creative or like all these things. But then it's like you also have to like consider then like, you know, at the same time, like that has to fit with what your family's doing. So like, for example, I don't know if it's just not like really feasible for the entire family to have to like move somewhere completely different so that you can get like your specific schooling or whatever. It also makes it harder. So it's like in a perfect world, maybe, but like, there's always all these factors that kind of make it, not always like super feasible to like, get your kids in like the perfect school that works perfectly for their specific personality type or all these things. So it's like, so it's like, yeah, it's a difficult one. If the kid, or like me, for example, or like your son or whatever, um, like just doesn't like it or see a point in it or whatever, like, or yeah, because like I also, I remember like I always like just hated school. Like I just really didn't like it. And now looking back,
Same.
like it makes sense. Yeah, because it's like, and it makes sense because it's just like, it clearly wasn't really meant like, what I probably was meant to be doing. Um, don't regret it or anything. I also don't regret uni. Because like without my life having gone like the way that it did, I would have never gone on that exchange program to Japan in the way that I did with the people, I'm meeting the people that I met over there. So I don't regret it or anything. But like, yeah, now I definitely kind of realize that it's like, yeah, if you want to, like some basic things like reading and writing, like obviously I'm very grateful that I learned that, and also that I had like English classes and classes in English, because now that I'm copywriting, I'm writing in English as well, and all these things. I'm very happy with that. But like legit, I like 80% or something of the stuff that I was learning, like I really, I don't know, I could have gone, I could have done without and just focused on like what I was good at. Because for example, now it's like I'm realizing like let's say with like uni or like higher education, uh, if you want to make money, you don't really need a degree. As well,
Mm.
like if you want to start a business or something and make money with like a business, if you want to go into like marketing or something else, with few exceptions, of course. Like I don't really think like you need a degree. I mean, looking back now at all the stuff that I've done and achieved, like I could have probably done it without a degree, because like I educated myself in like other ways, and invested in certain courses or like coaches or whatever that taught me exactly what I needed to do. Like obviously, if you want to become like a physiotherapist or a lawyer or like a doctor, like yeah, go ahead, because like by law you need a, I'm pretty sure you need to get a degree to even like do any of those things. But yeah, I don't know, like just the idea of that being like the minimum thing that you like have to do, I think is a little bit like outdated. Because yeah, like you said, in America, it's that idea, but also I think, I don't know, if I had to guess, like most places as well. Like I mean, definitely in Luxembourg, because especially there, because like basically, because I've heard that like a lot of Americans, they just can't wait to like get out of their hometown, and they never want to go back to their hometown. There's like this sort of resentment to it. Like Luxembourg is like
Yeah.
if your hometown, Luxembourg is if your hometown was an entire country, basically. That's how I see it. Um, But yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. But yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in that sense. And how was like, how did your family feel when, you wanted to take a different path and not do the whole
Mm,
traditional path? Because I know, I mean, I raised myself and my parents were not really involved in my life like that, but
mm,
I've seen different people in my life had different experiences. And there are kids out there that they grow up with a lot of pressure, or
mm,
even even other even adults, like they'll share that they had a lot of expectations from their parents and high
mm,
expectations of them. So how was it growing up with your family in regards to that type of environment, in the sense of those type of beliefs, right? Of like, oh, you have to go to school, you have to get a
mm,
job, you have to do all these things. And how did they respond to you wanting to go a different route?
mm. Yeah, I mean, I think they probably always saw it coming because, like, I think from like a kid to a very long time, I always had like a very vivid imagination, and I would like voice certain goals or certain things that I wanted to do, like small or big, even. Like I remember, I don't know, when I was like 14, 15 or something, I remember like we were like in a hotel room, and my mom like asked me like, well, do you know yet what you kind of want to do after university? And like I was dead serious, and I was like, oh yeah, I want to be in a band, because I that was my dream back then, to be like in a band. And I was dead serious, and she was like, saying like, yeah, but like, do you think it's realistic and like all this stuff and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, if I could choose anything, that's what I wanted to do. Also with other smaller things, I remember when I was very, very young, I always said I wanted to like get tattoos, and then I don't think my mom really took it seriously back then. And then when I did it, she was like very, very angry. But like, and I told her like, I told you I always wanted tattoos, and she's like, yeah, but I didn't know you were actually gonna do it. And I think it was like, yeah, and so anyway, like I've always kind of been like that. I also had like a phase where I was like selling, like creating and selling beats, like rap beats, and like like type beats on and upload them to YouTube. And I made like a bit of money with it. And I remember also telling my parents like, yeah, this is what I want to do full time, because that's what I wanted to do at that point. And yeah, so I think they always had this thing of like, yeah, yeah, let him have his dreams, but he's well, we'll see if it turns
You
out.
were a dreamer.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure. And so yeah, and then at some point, yeah, right. So this was like around the time that Andrew Tate started popping off a lot, and he had like this make money online course called like Hustlers University, and I saw like all these ads from it and everything, and he kind of got me with the ads, and I was like, you know what, like let me try it out. And personally, I don't think the course is that great to learn copywriting, but it introduced me to what copywriting was or is, because I didn't know what it was. And then I started doing that, and yeah, and I remember telling them, I wanted to do this and everything, whatever. Um, and I think they had the same thing of like, yeah, okay, we'll see. And then I took a break from it for a year because I went to Japan. That was around the time that I went to Japan. Went back, finished my university degree, started my internship, but I thought, fuck this. I don't want to like do an intern. Like I don't want to like because I got a taste of what like the office life was, right? So was like, so I was
Hmm.
like, yeah, I don't want this. So at the same time as doing my internship, I started
And
like on a really heavy. Yeah.
internships you don't get paid, right?
Well, here's the thing in Luxembourg, because that's what Luxembourg is also kind of known for, is that like they pay pretty well in jobs. That's why a lot of people like migrate there too. It's very international. So, and a lot of people will find it's crazy, but for what was it for 6 months of work, I got paid 12,000 euros for an internship,
Damn.
which is pretty crazy, right? Because yeah, I
They
know a
don't
lot of
do that
places
here in
they don't.
America.
Yeah, because I know a lot of places they don't pay you at all, at all. So like,
No.
yeah, so I
Wow.
was very happy with that. Um, because with that money, I was able to like invest in like coaching and all these things, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without the money from the internship. But yeah, anyway, so I started going like really hard on the copywriting thing again because like I knew like from a year ago I was like, okay, how am I going to make money online? Well, I know this copywriting thing. I started it. I knew that I liked it. I knew that I was kind of good at it, like for a beginner. I just thought it was fun, so I like started doing it again, and eventually, yeah, I paid like my first like high ticket course for it, like the coaching and whatever. And yeah, because it was like the most expensive thing I ever bought. It was like $4,000. It was the most expensive thing I ever bought at that time. So like, and also it was like, 1/4 of my internship money. And I wanted to use some of that money to go traveling to Southeast Asia. So it was like, big pressure on myself to like actually make it happen, like burning the boats, let's say. And, yeah, I remember like, telling my parents about it and like I was constantly going on about it because that's when I became really obsessed with it and like working very hard on it every single day. I kept telling them about it and whatever. And then it kind of got to a point where, like, for many, many weeks, I saw like no results, no progression. And then they would be like, so how's the copywriting thing going? And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it's going. And like, not trying to like say too much. And, yeah, it was interesting because like, obviously like my parents like always wanted the best for me. So like, I don't know. My mom was always like, trying to just kind of be supportive with it, but still trying to be realistic of like, yeah, I mean, worst case, if you don't get like a client by this time, then maybe look into getting a master's, like doing a master's degree, and maybe you can do it at the same time or all these things. And my dad was always like trying to sort of hint at the fact that I should probably like start applying for master's degrees and whatever. Um, like to be fair, they weren't like super sort of outspoken about like like this is the wrong way to go and like you need to go to a master's, but they have their opinions and they thought that was the best for me. So they kind of tried to like hint at that and everything. Um, and yeah, and so then I got my first client in November, and it was funny because like I didn't want to tell them before I had a company set up and everything set up for like so I could pay my taxes and everything legally was sound and nothing could go wrong and whatever because I knew that they would probably well I assumed that they would probably want to get involved and I just didn't want to like deal with all that like I just wanted to do it myself. Um, so I waited for a while to tell them that I would start making money because his first client I closed for $3,000 a month, which is more than my internship, and I closed them during my internship. But it was more than my internship. And then I remember the time that I told them was like 2 months later or something when I was already in Thailand and I'd already closed my second client. So at that point I was at 7,000 per month. And at some point they called me just because they wanted to catch up. And then they were like, yeah, so like, did you get a client yet? And by that time I already had two. So they were like, did you get a client yet? Because in their mind, they're still like, oh, um, it's about time to go start applying for masters. And they still thought it wasn't going to lead anywhere. Um, and but anyway, and then I told them like, yeah, I already have some customers, and they were like, oh yeah, so like for how much? And then I told them like 7,000, and they were like, blown away by it. Because it was also quite fast. Like because from the time that I started getting really consistent and serious with like the client outreach, I don't know. I think it took me probably like 3 weeks or something to get my first one. I was definitely luck involved because with a lot of people like it takes a lot longer. But to be fair, I was like working very hard and putting a lot of work in. So that's also why it happened faster because obviously the harder you work, the faster it's going to go. But yeah, and now I've been doing this for almost a year, and they've kind of like accepted like, yeah, this is what I do. I think everyone accepts it now.
You know, it's interesting because a, starting a business and making money online, just doing anything that's not ordinary, people want to give you advice, but it all comes from good intentions. Like,
Hmm.
our families don't really like understand what we're doing or
Hmm.
like, oh, why are you doing this thing? Why don't you get a job? Just why don't you be a
Hmm.
plumber? Or just something so basic
Hmm.
like that because we are conditioned to just play safe and we are
Hmm.
conditioned to just have security and be in a little box in a little corner and not step
Hmm.
outside of your box and not do anything that's risky, because anything
Hmm.
that's risky, it's not safe. So
Hmm.
that's what the world is conditioned to. Well, society today is just conditioned to. If it's not secure and it's not safe, I'm not doing it,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
most people just want like that instant reward, the instant gratification. And they call the top 1% for a reason, because not everyone can be an entrepreneur, not everyone can run a business, not everyone is willing to do what it takes to do what's really uncomfortable, because that's uncomfortable. Starting
Yeah.
something new, learning how to make money online, it's so uncomfortable. And people
Yeah.
just see it as like, oh, that's so scary. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, we'll get right back into the episode. I just wanted to take a quick break here to share with you guys that I do not make any money on this podcast. My goal and my purpose with Inherent Success is to be that guide for individuals in their self-discovery journey. So if you found any value in this episode, make sure to like, to subscribe. And if you know anyone that could benefit from the episode or the podcast overall, you can share with a friend as well. Now, let's get back into it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, yeah, because it's like now that I'm looking back, like it does make sense that like my parents looked at it that way, because it's like, I mean, it's easier for you to imagine now because you are a mom, but like, you know, let's say like you're a parent and then you have your kid, like, would you prefer your kid to be safe and out of danger, or for them to be like, if you could only choose between two things, like you prefer them to be like happy and fulfilled, but potentially not safe and potentially something might happen to them, or maybe they're not happy and fulfilled, but at least they're safe and, you know, they're not in danger. Like, if you
That's
really only
such a
had the
good question.
two options, you probably would go for safety because you don't want them to like be hurt or in danger or whatever. Because it's just like you know, from like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like that's like the lowest thing we need. It's like security. So it makes sense, you know. In a way, it makes sense, and you can't
Yeah,
fault them for it.
yeah, exactly. And it's interesting because I mean, I am a mom, but I started my first business venture when I was 22, 21 or 22. 2013, I was 22. So I was 22 years old. And, I know what it is to be in the grind. I know what it is to take risks. I know, like, I'm already adapted to that uncomfortable feeling. And I always support him and I tell him, he's also the same way. He's like, Mom, I want to start my own business. I want to learn how to make money. Like, that's all he's focused on. I'm like, okay, I'll support you, but as long as you have a plan.
Mm-hmm.
But I understand, I've been in my self-discovery journey for over a decade, and I've been learning a lot about myself, about the world, how we can create and be fulfilled in life, all of these things. So I'm passing that on to him. And I think that's more so like the safe and secure thing, secure mindset. I think that's more so for like traditional. And because,
Mm-hmm.
our parents, um, yeah, our parents, it's like a different generation, they don't like self-development didn't really start coming out. I mean, I don't even know, like there wasn't YouTube, there weren't books, there weren't podcasts, there weren't things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in when I started my first business venture, this was in 2013. So there was only YouTube and Facebook. There was no like podcasts or anything like that, and I was just reading books. But back then, that generation, they don't know anything about that. So our parents were raised, it was just like generation after generation of like safe and security. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
conditioning, that's the norm.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you think that way of the norm, then that's more of like, okay, I want my child to be safe and secure. I don't want him taking risks because I don't want him or her to suffer. But
Yeah.
but if you are in this case, our mindsets are completely different. So when you have children, now okay, I want my child to be fulfilled and happy doing what they
Mm-hmm.
love, and of course being successful with what they love to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, what was interesting is like now, kind of like looking back, and I'm perhaps you have the same thing, but it's like, you know, not going through that grind or not going for like, you know, trying to get my stuff off the ground. I think that would have like, I mean, first of all, looking back, it really wasn't as risky as it felt like at the time, because I really had such a safety net, you know. Um,
Mm.
and yeah, that's number one. And number two is like, it would have probably been more risky if I didn't do it, because like no matter what you do, there's a risk to it. It's like there's risk to everything. Like if I went to university,
100%.
you know, for my master's degree, I would have risked wasting time. I would have risked being very, very miserable and very like unfulfilled, and I don't know, like that probably didn't wouldn't lead to anything good. Um, I would risk like being in a job that I didn't really give a shit about, or like all these things. And now looking back, like at what I did, I don't think it really was that risky, because it's like, let's say worst case it just didn't work or whatever. Um, you know, I would never be homeless. You know, for in my case at least, like I know it's probably not like that for everyone, but like in my case, I definitely would not have been homeless, because I would, you know, be able to bounce back from my parents' place and then try something again. Um, I would have been able to get a job because I already had the internship up under my belt and a bachelor's degree, so I could probably get like some kind of job. I could have gone to university. I could like, there's all these things, like it's really like not that risky. Um, which like thinking about it also like makes me kind of surprised that not more people from where I'm from in Luxembourg take risks, because it's like we probably have the best, one of the best safety nets in the world, in that sense, where it's like, you know, where the GDP is high, we have good social security, like all these things, but then still people like just do the exact same thing, and it's like, because you could say like, okay, well maybe that's what they want to do, but I can't tell you how many people I talk to when I'm in Luxembourg, and I talk to them and I'm like, hey man, like yeah, like, what's up? Long time no see. I'm like, well, you know, what are you doing? And then they tell me what they're doing, and I've heard like literally verbatim, like at least two people verbatim say like, oh, I hate my job, you know, and then I'm just like,
Mm.
all right, yeah, I can't relate, but you know, like that sucks. Like you should do something about it, you know, like. Um, that's the thing. It's like people just don't do something about it. They just hope that like, oh well, I hope I'll figure it out. Like it's the wrong attitude. Like like if you want your situation to change, or you hate your job, or you don't like this or whatever, like you need to start doing something about it, you know. And that doesn't mean like you can instantly do it per se, but like start taking the steps, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, taking the actionable steps to get into risky situations, right? Like risky, making
Mm,
risky decisions. And I think what you
mm,
did was risky because it's definitely not something from your comfort zone. Anything that's outside of your comfort zone is risky. It really
yeah, yeah,
is. And
that's sure.
especially if you're not following the norms and you're like, okay, I don't want a 9 to 5. I want to create something online and make money online. And also you investing into coaching, that's risky. You like
No.
signing up for that Andrew Tate program, even though it wasn't good, but it was risky. You took the risk. And I think in life, for me, like what I've learned is you go through different avenues with different vehicles.
Mm,
So maybe that vehicle in that time of your life was college and university and going through that path to see where you can go, and then you didn't like that, so now you went on the path of like starting your online business, and that's your vehicle right now. So we all go through different paths of success to find like what's more in alignment with us. And
mm,
that's taking risks, that's doing different things. It's taking risks because life is not worth living if you don't take risks. If you're just in your
mm,
comfort zone and you're like, oh, and then your life goes on and you think, damn, I should have done that thing. What would have happened if
mm,
I just took the risk and I actually went for that thing that I was interested
mm,
in? Where would my life be? So the fact
mm,
that you went through university and now you're doing this, you needed that chapter so you can be able to learn, and it opened up a new landscape of like, okay, what's the online world about? But not a lot of people see it that way. People just be like, I hate my job. I hate what I'm doing. So I'm just going to keep going here. Yeah. So what would be like your best advice for, young men your age, especially men like going through college and going through university, if they're not happy and they don't really know where they're going, like what would be the best advice for them?
yeah. Hmm, I would say like, um, yeah, I would say just like most people, like, unless it is university, because a lot of, some people, I know like some people who are like very passionate, like academics, there's this one guy I met in Japan. His name's Sean. He's like a Chinese student, PhD student. Like, he's incredibly smart, and it's like very clear that this is what he wants to do and everything. And I think it's awesome, and all the power to him and everything. But I know there's also a lot of people, and maybe even most people, who aren't really that passionate about academics, or like a significant portion of people, and they don't really know why they're doing it. They, apart from like, well, it feels like the safest thing to do. And to those people, I implore them to, um, I don't know. I think it all starts with awareness for sure. So you can actually pay attention to, um, like your life experience and the things you experience and your reaction to them. Like, for example, you experience something, you're like, hey, I don't like that. Or you experience something else, you're like, hey, I do like that. And then basically like taking those things to kind of guide you to something that seems at least mildly interesting, and like interesting enough to try out. And then and then go and like put your all into it, and you'll see if that's really uh you know what you want to do for a long time. Because I had that too with like, at first I thought I wanted to be in a band. So like, I was for a little bit, and we did like a couple sort of, what is it, like contests or whatever, like talent shows, like one high school, one at university, like all this stuff. And that didn't end up like, going that way, because I just wasn't interested in it anymore. Then I tried the other thing with like, selling music online. Like at first it was fun and whatever, but after a while I realized, okay, like, I don't know, I actually don't really like this that much. I don't want to like, do this to make money. And then I was like, all right, well, what do I do now? And then it's like, oh, then let me try this other thing. And so far, like, copywriting has been like the thing that I've stuck to, like copywriting and marketing, like internet marketing. So I would say like, pay attention, and don't try to like take, go in the perfect direction. Try to just be like generally correct. Like, there's something I heard from like Alex Ramosi, like, just try to be generally correct, then go. Like, don't think about it too much. Also, like, don't try to think your way out of stuff. Just take action, and you'll see. Like, for example, like now, right now I'm in Dubai, and I was thinking of, for a long time, like, because I had the business set up and everything, and I didn't want to like pay so much taxes in Luxembourg, so I was looking for different places to set up. And at first I was like, I'll probably take like a year to research all these different places and whatever. But then I was talking to my coach, and I was like, and we basically came to the conclusion of like, all right, well, this seems like a decent option. Let me just go do it. Let me just go set up here for a year. I'll see if I like it. If I hate it, I could just go. It's really not that big. Like, it's not that deep. Um, and so that's what I did. I was like, because at first I was like, okay, I'm going to be a researcher for a year. But then like my mindset completely shifted, and I was like, actually, let me just go to Dubai and just see it for myself. And then from that, I will literally know, because it's like, I cannot. How can I know if without doing it? You can only know by like experiencing it, and then you can see if you like it. So it's like, I would say just like try and be generally direct, just take action, and calibrate after. Don't try to overthink it before you even take the action, because it's just so pointless. Like, you're just living in a fantasy land, like, because it's not real. You're missing so many nuances. You're not seeing what it's actually like. You have like, uninformed optimism, because or like uninformed optimism or pessimism, because you've heard certain things and you think it's going to be completely like that. But there's so many nuances and little experiences, that you just don't know without experiencing it. And you know, there might be a place that you think you would hate, but you end up loving, or think a place that you think you would love, but you end up hating. So try to not be like naive in that way. Like, try to not assume. Try to like just go and like just go experience it, and like you'll get all the answers you need, like whether you like it or not, like pretty quickly, because you'll feel like, oh, I hate this. I actually really don't like this. And it's like, all right, well then there you go. Now you know more what you don't like, and that means that you're closer to what you do like. It's just that. So I would say that, and yeah, just like really consider what the real risk is. Like, is it like, if for example you're in university and you're thinking of like, okay, well, I don't know if I really want to do this. Like, this whole online business thing looks a lot more appealing to me, and I'd love to give it a shot. then just do it. Like, what's more of a risk? Like, you know, focusing on that for a while, letting uni fall down by the wayside, but you can pick it up back up later. You always can. Um, and you don't take, you know, the opportunity right now to like start an online business, which I think now is it's easier than ever, like with the internet and everything. Um, like, is that more of a risk to like temporarily drop uni to see if you would like this or not, and maybe it's the best thing in the world, or is the risk to like not even try to figure out? So, I would say like actually like go and see for yourself. Like, don't think that you know that you know how it's gonna be. Like, just give it your best, and then you'll see. Like, that's it. Like, don't don't assume. You know, just take action.
Per- Perfectionism is like a dangerous ingredient for procrastination, that's for sure. Like
Yeah.
just trying to make everything perfect. I loved what you said that, you're like, "Oh, I'm just going to study it for a year and then I'll test it out." You're like, "No, I'm just going to go do that." And it's the same thing
Mm,
with me with this podcast. It took me 2 years to launch this podcast because
mm,
I thought, in my mind, I thought, okay, let me look up all the research. Let me look up how to do this. Everything has to be perfect. And that's my weakness. It's just like perfectionism.
mm, mm.
And I was like, I need to, learn a lot more and all these things. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to launch it and I'm going to progress as I go. Because
Yeah.
in order for you to really learn and develop the skill and even build confidence, you're going to have to fall on your face a few times. You're going to
Mm,
have to go through experiences and just let go of the idea of everything wanting, like you wanting everything to be perfect, and just freaking go. Like what you said, just go, just do it, just create, and you'll
yeah.
learn as you go. And that's how you find your greatest work, honestly.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's like I could spend years like researching or whatever, but like I was thinking, it's like I'm still in my early 20s. It's like literally the time right now to go and like try a bunch of stuff out. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can go
Yeah.
now. I could go now here for to Dubai for a bit. Then you know, I have to be like three months out of the year to keep my tax residency. So once the 3 months are over, which is like next month, then I can go to like another place that was like, you know, that seems like a place that I would like to live and just experience it, you know, and see if that could maybe be a thing in the future. Because like I don't know, because you know, personally, right now I'm not really looking like I'm not expecting to find the perfect thing yet. You know, it's like I think maybe that's also like another good piece of advice. Is like don't expect to find like the perfect thing like on the first try. You know, like expect that like it you know you have to try multiple things and it might take a long time, but just get going, like start that process. You know, and it's like because for me, like I'm fine if it takes me like some years, maybe even 10 years to really find like the place where I want to stay, like you know, really like settle down. You know, but yeah, I guess you could apply that to like a lot of things. Like don't don't try to like rush it too much. Like obviously like you know really go for it and like you know don't slack, but like um yeah, don't feel like you know it has to happen like now. Like I need to find the perfect place to live now. I need to find my passion or like my purpose like now. Like just as long as you've started the process and you're giving your all, like and you're really pouring yourself into the process, and you know you're not like being like you know a lazy piece of shit, you know, like and you're putting like your all into it. And then it's good. Like then it's fine. Like as long as you're like putting your effort into it and like whatever, like you're at least you're trying. You're putting the effort in like consistently and whatever, and trying to you know put the effort consistently, the right action consistently, get feedback consistently, apply that consistently, repeat that cycle, and like as long as you're like in that cycle, you're in that process, um, then it's all good because you know at some point you're gonna like figure something out, or there's gonna be like a spark, or something's gonna click, like whatever. So yeah, it's like this maybe a bit cliche, but it's like you know focus more on the process rather than like getting to your destination. Like as long as you're in like in the lane, like in the process towards it, like it's all good. It doesn't matter if you're there yet, you know. I think.
Yeah, and Leila Harmozy, I watch a lot of her stuff too, and she says something very interesting about self-sabotage. And self-sabotage to me, and like, just it's interesting how everyone has a different perspective when it comes to all of these terms, right?
Mm,
And she said something very interesting about self-sabotage. It's like, if you're doing something and you think that, I'm probably going to butcher what she said, but she said in the context of like, if you start something and you use the word I'm self-sabotaging, I didn't start because of self-sabotage because I'm not good enough. And it's like, yeah, you're not good enough yet, and the only way you're
mm,
going to get good is if you implement the practices and you do the work and you just keep learning and go as you go. Now if
mm,
you're self-sabotaging yourself because technically, yeah, you don't know how to do that particular thing, but you can get good at it. So ever
mm,
since I heard that, I was like, okay, now I'm not going to use self sabotage anymore. Yes, we are worthy and we are good. We can get good enough to learn different skills and master different skills, and we are worthy of success. We are enough and all these things. But you gain the confidence, like what you said, just doing the work, just staying in your
mm,
lane and putting yourself out
mm,
there. So I agree
mm.
with that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Because it's like I think that feeling of like not being confident is just like a natural part of the process too. Because I feel like every time I have to start like a new project or like I'm up against a new sort of problem that I need to solve that I've never solved before, it's always this cycle of like, like, damn, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this. I think this might be like, for example, with the client, like I have this thought of like, okay, I think this might be where I royally fuck up and I'm going to lose this client because I don't know how to fix this. I don't know like how to do this or whatever because it's the first time doing it. And then I'll just like throw myself like at it for a couple of days. I'm like, okay, I still don't get it. Throw myself at it again, and then sleep on it, and repeat that cycle. And then at some point, I'll be like, oh, actually, wait, I'm starting to get it. Like, and there's starting to be like a click. And then in the end, I solve it and I crush it and whatever. And then I'm like, and then I have like, this huge boost of confidence, like like I'm the man and everything. And then another problem comes again, and I have the same, and then the cycle continues because I think it's just the natural part of it because it's like, of course, you're not going to be confident with something you've never done before. But the nice thing about it is there's a huge
Yeah.
opportunity to get super confident if you just like throw yourself at it anyway. And I think the like the point isn't really to like feel confident from the start. It's just about knowing that regardless if you're confident about it or not, that you're just gonna throw yourself at it, and that regardless you're gonna be fine. That's all you need. Because yeah, it's a great opportunity to get confident, and because you show yourself like, oh man, I genuinely thought I was gonna be able to do this. I genuinely thought I was gonna lose this client because I wasn't gonna be able to do this for them, or whatever. And then like only a few days later, I figured it out, and then it's like you feel really good about that. Yeah,
Absolutely. Success is fuel your ambition.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
All those little achievements, it fuels you and you're like, oh wow, I'm able to do this. I actually, you
Yeah.
just get, that's how you gain confidence, just being able to put continuously to like go through the trenches and put yourself out there, and then you eventually
Hmm.
learn, and that's how you become confident, because it's not just going to
Hmm.
be off the bat. Of course it's scary as hell. That's why
Hmm.
you do it scared. This is phrased, do it scared, because that's how
Hmm.
you're going to be able to get yourself out of your comfort zone, and then you eventually
Hmm.
become comfortable with being uncomfortable, and also you build that, you become competent, you gain confidence in the process that you're in. And that takes time,
Hmm.
but not a lot of people
Hmm.
are willing are willing to go through that work.
Hmm.
um yeah, so I would love to talk a little bit more about what you do. So
Hmm.
so I did some research on you. So you're the
Hmm.
head of email marketing at Theme Pages, and something I
No,
saw on your Instagram. Oh,
yeah, no, not anymore.
okay.
Yeah, so yeah, yeah. Now my I guess my roster is like a little bit different because that's kind of like the
Okay.
nature of like sort of freelance work as well. Like you'll work with someone for a year, for like a couple months, and then like for whatever reason you'll move out, move on. But yeah, so yeah, right now I'm working with this weight loss medication provider in America. It's like the biggest one in America. It's called Future Health. Working with them. I'm also currently
Okay.
working on a project with William Rivera from Ecom Degree University. It's like an e-commerce educational platform. And yeah, and then I've had some other people I worked with in the past. People like well, theme pages. I worked with theme pages for a long time, like almost a year. Um, I've worked with this company called Sava Bros. This company called oh yeah, with Dan Bolton. He's a business coach, and yeah, some others as well. But yeah, those are a couple of people I worked with.
Okay, awesome. So it's just more of like the digital realm.
Yeah, so it's honestly like right now, like yeah, like the digital realm, I suppose. Like info businesses and like mainly info businesses. Yeah, yeah,
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I do have here copywriter of Future Health. So what's
yes,
what's that like working for them? Because essentially you did start in copywriting.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's there's a lot of diversity with the work, like working with them, which is cool. Like in terms of like formats that I write, like I write a lot of like ad scripts for them, advertorials as well. Now we're moving on to email too. Um, like Facebook posts. Oh yeah, I also wrote an what's it called? Like a sponsored sort of spot for iHeartRadio for one of the ads. Like what like the
That's
DJ
awesome.
like says like a little advertisement for like Future Health, like whatever, which was pretty cool because like obviously I'm not from America, but I do know that like iHeart is like probably the biggest like radio station or one of the biggest radio stations in America. So when I got that opportunity, it was very cool because obviously like you know I don't know, coming from like Luxembourg, like a little country where pretty much nobody really does like stuff on like an international stage. I mean, it's slowly getting there now. I know a couple of people are like moving like more like internationally and doing things like outside of Luxembourg and everything. But yeah, like I don't know, starting there and then like writing that for like this huge like radio station in America was very cool, very cool opportunity. And oh yeah, and now I also yesterday I finished like writing a script for a TV ad as well, for one of their TV ads, which is also very cool. Like writing something that's going to be on television everywhere in America. Um, but yeah, it can be intense sometimes because it's like an in-house gig, so it's like almost like like it's like full time basically. But there's a lot of like experience and growth in that particular role. So yeah, it's cool.
Awesome. That's amazing. And do you currently have are you still taking your own clients and teaching them? What do you teach? What do you teach your clients currently? Like if you're still coaching people?
Oh yeah, no. So yeah, so like I mean I'm mainly still like writing copy for people. Like I'm still yeah, that's like my main thing. But I guess like 2 months ago or whatever, I also started like coaching in a mastermind that I'm in because basically at some point like I got like a huge like influx of clients and I guess I kind of like figured out my way of getting clients and it got to a point where like I had like so many clients that I did or sorry so many like leads that I didn't really know like what to do with them and everything and which is a great problem to have. And so like my head coach kind of like the mastermind that I'm in kind of recognized that. And then he was like, oh, like, do you want to, maybe go on like a bi-weekly call as well to like help other people in the mastermind to get their clients who might be struggling a little bit. So, yeah, I coach for that as well. I've done, some other like one-off calls too. And I definitely want to go more into coaching later, take on like one-on-one clients, like
That's what
maybe
I was
start
gonna
like a
say.
little,
Do you see
mhm.
yourself? Do you see yourself like creating something that's like solely your own, that you're not like in
Mm.
like a, like, I guess you could say working for someone or like under someone else, or like, just like, have you ever thought about creating like your own coaching program,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
your
yeah,
own
for sure. Like,
mastermind?
yeah, yeah, no, for sure. Like, yeah, the goal is really to like make my own offer. Like, I'm already talking to one of my friends who's also very successful copywriter. I mean, he's like 19 and making some good money and working for some really uh, big names as well. And he's been writing copy since he was like 15. He'd be like, I guess some funny stories about like being in high school. He would be like in the toilet stall, like writing copy, and outside of the stall, he would like hear like kids getting bullied like by other kids, and he's just like there in the stall like
Oh,
writing copy.
wow.
Yeah,
That's something you see in the movies. That's so funny.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I know it's such a good story. Um, but yeah, so I really want to like, or I will set that up with him, and I think has a lot of potential. But yeah, that's kind of the goal. I think like just to like have my own offer as well, and you know that I think that would align probably the most with like what I would want as well, like in terms of like a lifestyle setup as well. Um, because with the offer, like I think there's a lot of sort of upfront like work. There's definitely like a period where you have to work very hard, like obviously. But once you kind of have it like up and running, um, you don't have to like deal with like last minute things or like sometimes certain intense things that come with being like a freelancer. Juggling like a bunch of clients or whatever. So I think that would be uh, pretty awesome. And like me and my friend, like I think we're like the perfect sort of combination to create an offer where like people would get a lot of value out of it because like for me like I feel like I'm better at like the client getting, let's say, just because of what the type of clients I've been able to get in a short amount of time. And he's, I mean, also good at that because like he's got some great clients, but his focus would be more on like the actual skill of writing copy because he's been writing copy for like almost 5 years now since he was like a kid. I mean, he still is a kid, to be
Wow.
honest. So he's very good
Yeah,
at that.
basically, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
he's definitely a lot better than me. So I think it would be like a great combination because it's like you got him for the actual skill for delivery and me for like lead gen and whatever. So I think that would be great. Yeah, that's where I would want to go to. But because the thing is like I'm not in a rush or anything. I'm currently still very much enjoying like doing the freelance work because I'm just in sort of like experience getting mode and um just trying to like get as much experience and as much growth and as good results possible for clients as I can, and just build myself up that way. So yeah, I think everything's going according to plan.
That's amazing. And you're young too. So how old are you?
Yeah, 24.
24? Yeah, so you're young and you're on the right track, and it's very inspiring to see young men like yourself like really creating a great amazing things for themselves and for their future. And like you're not even mid 20s yet, and you've already established like a solid foundation for yourself. So that's truly inspiring and truly amazing, for any young men that are listening to this. So
Mm.
yeah, so
Yeah, son.
Yason,
Yeah, son.
Yason. Yason, well, thank you so much, honestly, for sharing your story and being with us today. I have one last question for you. Now,
Mm.
this is something that I always like to ask all of my guests. So, what does inherent success truly mean to you?
Mm. um, well, probably that like everyone has their strengths, and it's not always easy to like recognize those, and it's sometimes easy to focus more on your weaknesses and think like, oh, I'm not good at anything, or I don't know what I should do or all these things. And because it's like, and I know that because I've had those exact same thoughts, like when I was younger, really thinking like you're not good at anything or like you haven't achieved anything. So, um, what can you do? Like, I don't know what I can do or whatever. Um, so yeah, I would say like, that we we all kind of have like these strengths, whether you see them right now or not, whether you've cultivated them or not. Like sometimes it's just about like seeing them and like finding them. That's why earlier I also said like it all starts with like awareness and like paying attention. Number one, and number two, like cultivating them too. Because like you might have certain skills that you kind of think like are average level skills or even below average level skills. And you're like, I don't know if like I could do anything with this. But if you were to cultivate those skills, you could take those like below average or like average skills and take them to like world class, like if you put the work in. So, yeah. And to add to that, I would always say, I would also say like try to look at your potential rather, or, what's possible rather than basing like your sort of skills or confidence on what you've achieved in the past. Because and like if when you're younger, like it's easier to be like, oh, well, I haven't done anything yet or like anything impressive yet, so like I can't do anything
Mm.
or whatever. But it's like normal because like you're young, so like you haven't done anything, like it's just how it is. Um but yeah, I would say just like don't sell yourself short. Follow your curiosity, cultivate those curiosities, like go all in for yourself regardless of what other people might say and everything, and you'll probably like end up finding something you'd never expect. You'd find like a version of yourself that you'd probably never expect. And so just like do that, and you'll find your strengths and your inherent success.
I love that. Tapping into your truest potential.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
that. I love that. Well, thank you so much. That was very beautifully said. I love asking this question. Everyone says something so different. I love it.
Oh yeah.
Well, thank you
Okay.
so yeah, yeah. Thank you so much for being on the show today. And guys, if you found any value in this episode, just make sure to like, share, subscribe. Also share with a friend that they can relate to this episode, and also turn on your notifications for the next episode. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Cool. Peace.